This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, are we ready?
Yeah.
This is probably the most technical difficulties we've ever had to encounter. So I'll now call to order the two. Is something wrong?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. I'll now call to order the Tuesday, April 12th, 2022 council meeting. This meeting is being held remotely, and the time is 7:02. Joanne, could you do the roll call for us, please?
You bet. Mayor Kim Smith,
Here.
Tom Smith,
Here.
Dan Stevens,
Here.
Stephen Knott,
Present.
Jim Olson,
Here.
Carrie Burmaster,
Here.
Diane Wolf.
Here.
Thank you. We'll forego the pledge, not having a flag handy. We can maybe do it twice at the next meeting. No, I'm just kidding. We'll do it we can do it at the reorg. And then moving on to item 3, the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. I don't have the pre-printed statement, but I will just say this meeting is intended so that it can be conducted in an atmosphere that encourages respectful discussion. And I ask everyone to adhere to that tonight. And if you're not able to, we will ask you to not participate any further. So item 4 is public input. If there's anybody on who would like to address the Common Council, now is the time to do so. Start out by saying your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And I think we have Jesse has his hand up. If we could call on Jesse first. Welcome,
Yes.
Jesse. Sorry
Thank
for the
you very
mix
much.
up tonight.
No, that's okay. I appreciate you running into me and giving me an idea of what I'm supposed to do. So thank you for that. So Jesse, my name is Jesse Burkett. I represent LK Architecture at 345 Riverview in Wichita, Kansas, 67203. So I'm actually here tonight on this call to represent Walmart in regards to the Marketplace Development PCID amendment for the Supercenter located at 3107 Marketplace. In this amendment, we requested to revise the existing building color to Walmart's current brand identity. I understand that our application was placed on tonight's consent agenda. So I'm just here to formally request the amendment be removed from the consent agenda and to be voted on separately for approval. It's our understanding that when Home Depot was developed, they established an architectural character for the development and that Walmart's colors were agreed to with respect to that design. Having said that, we all know that brands change over time. And while I cannot speak to the Home Depot brand, Walmart's brand has evolved over the last several years to incorporate a neutral color palette consisting primarily of grays with areas of blue accent. We believe that our proposed color scheme reasonably still complies with the architectural character of the development. And our proposed scheme uses a limited selection of warm grays to create a subtle color backdrop for the main building structure. Darker grays are used along the wall base as a wainscot, as well as to help ground the building, as well as to highlight wayfinding signage to assist in directing guests around the site. So on top of those grays, the design incorporates the Walmart branded blues to highlight areas of entry and other branded elements to promote the feeling of destination around the building. Home Depot uses these same characteristics with a subtle color backdrop for the main building, darker colors for the base, and bright orange at points of entry and branding. So sort of similar idea. And then additionally, the gray palette is not without precedent actually within the development. The existing Ashley Furniture store located right in front of the Home Depot has established a similar use of grays as what we're proposing for Walmart. And on the side wall, which I saw today, I mean, really, you could pull straight out of the Walmart brand book. So just with all that in mind, we were just asking that this PCID amendment be removed from the consent agenda and be voted on for approval for our new colors at tonight's meeting. So I thank you, everyone, for your time, and I yield it back.
Thank you, sir, for those comments. Next, we'll go to Amy. Is it Amy Franzen?
Amy Warner had my hand up.
Amy Warner for First Roofing, is that what You wanna do
Okay,
that,
I
Tara?
only see Amy here. So, okay,
Yeah,
Amy,
yeah.
I apologize if you can go ahead and have your turn to speak.
Wonderful. Good evening. I'm here regarding the Omni Center sign located on the corner of Riders Club Road and Highway 35. There seems to be some conflicting information regarding the ownership and responsibility of the sign and the interest in the sign. Earlier this year, we contracted with a local sign company to install a 30-foot sign on the same property that contains the Omni Center sign. Under the Omni Center sign is a brick monument sign that we own. When we spoke with the city of Onalaska, we were told we could not install a 30-foot sign if there were other signs on the property within 200 feet. After having a professional survey completed, the location of the new sign is 17 feet shy of the required 200 feet distance. When the city was presented with that information, they indicated that they had no desire to keep the Omni Center sign, which is a non-conforming sign, nor did they have any record of who installed the sign. I was told that the city would prefer the sign be removed. I provided a letter of understanding between Trempealeau Electric and the city of Onalaska and also requested a quote for our monument sign under the Omni Center sign to be removed. The removal quote for the Omni Center sign was sent to the city, and they informed me that they would not pay for the removal, rather would allow the removal to be made without, but would like the sign to be returned to them. I requested that the city pay for the removal of the Omni Center sign at the finance meeting last week, and that request was denied. There was also interest expressed by Dan Wick and council members that the sign does provide benefit to the city of Onalaska, and they would like to keep the sign in place. We are okay with the current signs remaining in place and ask that the new 30-foot sign be approved. Given that it's not in that 200 feet distance, it would need special approval. Had we been in the meeting, I would have presented a written letter of termination to the previous letter of understanding and requested the city either remove their sign in the next 90 days. And if it's not removed by the city, it will become the property and responsibility of the current owner, or enter into a new letter of understanding with the new owner to allow for a 30-foot sign to be installed less than 200 feet away from the existing monument sign and the Omni Center marquee sign. So I'm requesting that the city council vote to allow us to have the two signs on the property. The other sign will be on the very south end of the property, and it's 187 feet away from the two signs that are non-conforming. And the city has received that permit for the request of the new 30-foot sign, but has not approved it yet. And then also request that if the Omni Center sign does stay, that we enter into a new letter of understanding under Douglas Hill, no longer Trempealeau Electric.
Okay, thank you for that, Amy. We'll get to
Thank
that
you.
in the agenda later. Okay, next I will call on Leanne Stokes.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. My name is Leanne Stokes and I reside at 324 14th Avenue North in Onalaska. I'm here today to thank Jim Olson for his 24 years of service to the Onalaska community as a District 1 alderperson. Mr. Olson was one of 3 people who spearheaded the efforts to get the Onalaska Omni Center built. This facility continues to provide a wonderful place for many area organizations to use for their business meetings, family reunions, trade shows, receptions, weddings, and special events. And many members of the Onalaska Hockey Associations have watched their youth use it for hockey games. During his tenure, he also served on all of the various committees that are part of the Onalaska municipal government. I do feel that he will continue his work in private projects which will help more people of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Appreciate those comments very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Next I will call on Jan Brock.
Good evening. My name is Jan Brock. I live at 3364 Emerald Valley Drive in Onalaska. And I'm here tonight, as are many of my colleagues, volunteers from Centering Onalaska, to update you all on the flower baskets. Since your guidance at the March 8th council meeting, we have sanitized and assembled the flower baskets, and Dave and Suzanne Fry delivered them to Sargent's Nursery. So get ready, because weather permitting, we rented a truck and plan to hang the baskets on Wednesday, May 25th. Over the last month, we have thoroughly investigated 3 options for weekly watering. Number 1 would be hiring an independent contractor. We ask all local nurseries, several independent landscapers, and none is available to take such a small job unless we pay an unreasonable amount. Plus, any of these businesses or independent hires would not be able to use the city watering truck, and most simply don't have appropriate equipment. Neither Centering on Alaska nor the OEF is set up to hire someone under our current nonprofit status. Number 2, having volunteers do the watering. We have registered with the RSVP to help water, but this option is not optimal. The number of volunteers using the city equipment would be difficult to track, and I imagine a security issue with access to your buildings and equipment. Number 3, city temporary and, if needed, full-time staff doing the watering during the week, and Centering on Alaska reimbursing the department for the hours billed. Dan Wick has roughly estimated this at $4,825. Excuse me, for 5 days a week, except holidays, for June through September. Excuse me. Our Centering on Alaska volunteers intend to stay very involved. We will water weekends, holidays, and do our best to fill into days that the staff is needed for other jobs. Especially in the cooler weather, we can cut back slightly, but don't want to compromise the aesthetics of the baskets by not watering regularly. We are asking the city to simply partner with our group. We are not trying, we are willing to pay for watering and help in many ways. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we are simply taking another lesson from Red Wing. We patterned our flower baskets after those in Red Wing, and we are simply asking for your permission to do the same with this final component, to work with the Parks and Rec Department to water the baskets during the week and to have Centering on Alaska make a donation in the amount of that cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan, for that information. And this part of the meeting, for those of you, just to remind everyone, we're just listening. This isn't a time for discussion. But thank you for that information. Okay, next I will call on Chris Meyer.
This is Chris Meyer at 1589 on Alaska. I am here for Grandview Estates. There is an item that has been pulled from the consent agenda. I just make everybody aware that I am here for when the discussion comes. I will be
still online.
What's that?
Okay, thank you, Chris. Now, just remind people, if you're not speaking, to try to have your microphone muted. With a lot of people on, it's sometimes hard if there's background noise. Okay, Marv Ramsey, you are next.
Thank you, Kim. Marv Ramsey, 1645 Keller Court on Alaska. I'm here as a volunteer for Centering on Alaska. I'm also here as a volunteer for a similar nonprofit called the Spider Lake Association, which is a nonprofit in the town of Spider Lake in the Hayward area. And I just wanted to share with you how the Spider Lake Association pays the employees that do what is called launch monitoring. The mission of Spider Chain Lakes is to preserve and protect the waters. So these launch monitors are at the boat launch and inspect every single boat that goes into and comes out of the water. They are employees of the township. There are actually 5 of them, and they're paid every 2 weeks. At the end of the summer, the town of Spider Lake sends an invoice or a bill to the Spider Lake Association, again at the end of the summer, and they in turn reimburse the town. So it's basically a wash, which is what Jan Brock had proposed earlier, and working with Dan Wick. I have talked to the town treasurer, who would be really happy to talk with the Unalaska treasurer, be it Sabrina or Karen at the time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Barb.
And thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to address the Common Council this evening?
David Frey has his hand raised.
Who does?
Dave Frey or Fry.
Okay, Dave Fry, you can go ahead next. Dave Fry?
He's muted. Otherwise, Jim Wickheiser also has.
Can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you, Dave.
Okay. I'm also with Centering Onalaska. I live in Onalaska at 1564 West Young Drive in Holiday Heights. This is a little bit of a continuation to Jan Brock. I'd like to give you a brief explanation of how Red Wing, Minnesota does their flower basket project. Red Wing, of course, is similar in Onalaska in that it is 17,000 residents. They currently have $46,000 budgeted for their basket project. That's 176 baskets at $260 a basket. Now that cost includes 1.5 to 2 seasonal employees. It also includes the maintenance and the use of the 2 vehicles that they use, the actual flower basket maintenance, and all of the nursery costs. So at the end of the year, Sargent's Nursery bills the city. And then the city bills Kiwanis. The Kiwanis Club helps them in a similar fashion that Onalaska gets helps from Centering Onalaska. Now the difference would be that the city pays for 75% of the actual cost. I'm sorry, the city pays for 25% of the actual cost. So assuming that the 46,000 they budgeted, the city would be responsible for $11,500. The Kiwanis Club picks up the remainder of the expenses for their flower box project in Red Wing, Minnesota. So any questions?
In this part of the meeting, we are just listening, but if we have
Okay.
discussion, it will be at the appropriate item on the agenda. I think it's during Dan Wick's report. So thank
Sure.
you for your comments, Dave. And if we have any questions, we'll ask them at that time.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, Jim Wickheiser.
Have to unmute here. Hi, I'm sort of appearing as a general citizen and then a Centering Onalaska volunteer. First of all, I'd like to recognize Dan Wick and his team, especially Lane. If any of you drove down 2nd Avenue yesterday and saw the gardens covered with mulch, that was great. And it'll look so much better and help keep the weeds out. Secondarily, I've lived here 42 years in Onalaska. One of the things that's become a mainstay is the flowers along Main Street and 2nd Avenue. And I was really kind of disappointed, very disappointed to hear that that may not happen this year. So I guess I'd just like to encourage, listen to the options that Jan presented, but only one seems viable. And, without water, the plants won't sprout. So let's keep them sprouting, whatever you can do. Thank you.
And thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Second call. If anyone would like to address the Common Council, now is the time to do so. Third and final call for anyone wishing to address the Common Council this evening. Public input is now closed and we'll move on to our printed agenda. The first item is the report from the mayor, and a couple of these things I'm going to put off to our our reorganization meeting next month, because I think it will be better in person. But I will proceed with the Arbor Day proclamation, item A. This is an annual proclamation that the city puts forth regarding Arbor Day, which is April 29th of 2022 this year. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas the city of Onalaska has been recognized as a Tree City USA for the 22nd consecutive year by the National Arbor Day Foundation in honor of its commitment to effective urban forest management. Now therefore, I, Kim Smith, Mayor of the City of Onalaska, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the City of Onalaska, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. So thank you for that. And then item B, 2022 World Autism Awareness Proclamation. I do have this in the packet if you would like to review it. I'm going to hold it until next week though, because I do have an ambassador who will come and accept this proclamation at our meeting next week. It was unfortunate that we had to postpone that. Item C is just for your information. I did speak at the National Federation for the Blind Convention, which was held at Stony Creek last weekend. It was the Wisconsin people and the La Crosse County chapter hosted it. So there were people from all over the United States at the convention, but primarily from the state of Wisconsin. And that was a nice experience to be able to welcome this convention to our community. And then item D is recognition of 3rd District Alderperson Carrie Burmaster. I do have a certificate of thanks prepared for Carrie, and if she would like to come to our next Common Council meeting, I could present it to you there. Otherwise, I can get it to you in an alternative way that you can arrange with me. But I just wanted to just really thank you for your years of service to our city, between, you know, being a city employee and then continuing on as alderperson. We've really appreciated your wisdom, and I just wanted to personally say thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then item E, recognition of 1st District Alderperson Jim Olson. Again, Jim, if you want to come to our next, let me know in the interim if you want to come to our next meeting. I can present your certificate to you in person. But I really do appreciate your years of service. You know, I feel like, you know, you've really taught me a lot over all the years. And, you know, like all council members, we've had our things we agree on and we've had our things we disagree on. But I know that you always in your heart have held, you know, the interests of the city of Onalaska first. And so I really appreciate your service and thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. And then item F, I know Tanner is on, but I think we'll postpone this one to next week too, so that we can recognize Tanner in person for completing his probation. Is that okay, Tanner?
Absolutely, that's fine with me.
Okay. Okay, moving on then. Recommendations for approval and or possible action on the following committees, commissions, boards, and officials. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Is there anything people would like removed from the consent agenda?
Mayor?
Yes. Tom.
This is Tom Smith. Yeah, I would like to remove on number 6E, the approval, which is actually wasn't approval of the removal cost of the $675 for the Omni Center freestanding located at Highway 35 there for further discussion and clarification.
It's under
6E.
6E.
Yeah, Finance
Okay.
Committee.
Okay, I see it. 6E is removed. Is there anything else the counselors would like removed from the consent agenda?
Your Honor, it's a little bit unorthodox, but this is probably the best time to bring it up. We have item 12A, which is it's discussion and possible action regarding remote work application for the city administrator. And we, just in the recent months, we've had a lot of discussion regarding what can and cannot be spoken at during an alderperson report. It would strike me that this would be better discussed under item 9E under personnel. That way we're staying consistent with what the decision we came to several months ago. So it's
I think I
not
have
really
to,
consent, but, and maybe I would defer to Amanda if she had an opinion on that.
yeah. Our legal counsel would have to weigh in on that.
I mean, I think, you know, it probably would be more appropriate under the personnel committee. I think this is the first time we've had such a request, and so it likely just ended up under council president for a master's report because that's the process through which it came, but likely would be more appropriate under personnel. But
Is
either
it-
way, it's non-consent. So I mean, we're not really, it's just where on the agenda it falls.
Okay, Amanda, that was a real good attorney answer. Like, so I don't know that we have ever moved anything from one place in the agenda to the other.
My thoughts are is that discussion and possible action is, we came to the conclusion a couple months ago is not appropriate under alderperson's reports. And it seems like it's a personnel issue, so.
Okay,
Council-
well,
And I
Let
think
me-
if I can clarify too, I think the discussion we had was that we can't have discussion and action on there unless it's appropriately worded. So that's why the wording was added on there, so we can clearly identify it to the public that it's an actionable item.
okay, so let's put that on the back burner right now because what we need to be discussing right now are items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda and put onto the non-consent agenda. And then once we dispense with the consent agenda, we'll come back to this discussion. So is there anything else on the consent agenda that any counselor would like removed? Stephen Knott.
Yeah.
Oh, Stephen, I can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Based on Jesse's input, I'm looking to see where this Walmart piece is on here. He asked us to pull it from the consent. I don't even see it on there. What am I missing?
It's under plan item V.
Steve.
Okay, yeah. Let's pull that off as well and have a discussion on that. I'm not sure what the issue is.
Okay. Under plan, item V is moved to the non-consent. Are there any others? Counselors, not seeing or hearing anyone, then we'll consider a motion regarding the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor by Dan Stevens. It's been seconded by Carrie Burmaster to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Now, moving over to the non-consent agenda, recap of items pulled from the consent agenda. I have item 6E regarding the Omni Center sign and item from the plan V regarding the Walmart coloring. Is there any other discussion you want to have about moving things around here on this non-consent agenda? Do you want to move 2A and make it 9E?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move item 12A to be discussed under item 9E under personnel.
Okay, a motion on the floor by Dan Stevens. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Did you say yes, Stephen?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay, Stephen, not seconds. Okay, so the motion is to move that item. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone who's against, please say no. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, now we're gonna go to item 6E, approval, under finance.
Thank you, Your Honor. So item 6E, approval of removal costs of $675 for Omni Center freestanding sign located at 1472 State Road 35. At F&P last week, it was discussed and unanimously denied by a vote of 3-0. So I will move that we deny paying the $675 to remove the Omni Center sign.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Dan Stevens. Under discussion? Any discussion?
Say, Mayor, can I speak? This
Tom
is Tom.
Smith?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Amy was on earlier under public input, and I invited her back on because the sign is under District 1. I've had some discussions with Amy, and I agree with Diane. We agreed unanimously at the Finance Committee that we would deny this. So it was, first of all, it was misleading on the consent agenda because it looked like we had approved it, but we really didn't. We disapproved it. So that's the case. But then talking further to Amy, and Amy's on if you have any more clarifications of some of the things she said earlier, now she has the time to talk about it. There seemed to be some confusion of whether the city really wanted the sign or they didn't want the sign. And I think what we as the Finance Committee said, if you want to keep the sign, fine. If you want to take it down, you can. But we were just not going to pay the expense of the $600 and something to have it removed. So that was my understanding. And I guess I just wanted to get a clarification because I know Diane and Jim and I were on the Finance Committee, and that was what we had agreed, is that we wouldn't pay for it. Now, if they wanted to take it down or keep it or do whatever they want with it, that's fine, even though we did build it, but it is on their property. And then what Amy has come back with is some alternative, and I don't know if this is the place because she just filed that application. So I think we'd have to let it go through Katie the proper way for whether there'd be an exception to putting a different sign in that wouldn't take the Omni Center site down. But I just kind of wanted to get a little bit of a clarification, or if Amy, you had anything else you wanted to add. I just felt it was important because there was conflicting information from this week to last week. And I just wanted to make sure that we were all in agreement. And we also felt it was good to get the input of the whole council. And so we did want to take it off the consent agenda anyhow, just to make sure everyone was understanding what the whole issue was.
Okay, and thank you for that, Tom. And it's always better to discuss things a little bit more. So I'll ask Administrator Eric Reinflush if you want to weigh in on this topic or redirect it.
I think Amanda will be the best person to speak to that, as she has her hands up.
Okay, we'll turn to Amanda then.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up a little bit. So I did talk to staff, including Katie, who is not here tonight, as well as Dan Wick, Park and Recreation and Omni Center after last meeting, and just confirmed that the city does not actually want this sign were it to be taken down. So just to clarify, if they remove the sign, the city has no interest in keeping the sign. As far as her offer to allow the sign to stay, that is not something that we have discussed as staff. And so I guess if that is something that the city would like to explore, I would ask that this be referred to plan, which will not happen in April, but would happen in May, just due to the timing of everything. But to, I believe, your point, Your Honor, that would be, or Tom's point, that would be the appropriate channel with respect to that. Also, we may need a BOZA meeting as well, because even with their proposal, it's still a non-conforming sign, and approval for a non-conforming sign would need to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay, thank you for that, Amanda. Do the counselors have any other questions or comments they'd like to share? Stephen, I think.
Yeah.
Stephen.
Yeah, I just, I'm interested in some of the history on this. You know, what was the prior agreement, if there was one? Was an agreement in perpetuity? Was it an agreement? Who asked for the sign in the first place? And it sounds like we paid for it. I think I heard that just a couple minutes ago. So I'm looking for the background on this too. Now, I have no problem with it deferring to plan, but those would be questions that I'd be asking next month if this gets deferred for sure. And if it's not going to get deferred, I'd like them answered today because it might inform how I vote on this.
Okay, Stephen, we did have the agreement in the packet at our last meeting,
Okay.
whatever meeting, was it F&P meeting perhaps?
Yep.
Is that correct, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could, if you have that packet there, you could probably find it quick.
I can pull it up. Obviously, I'm not a member of that, but I'll look at the packet in detail.
Yep,
Say,
and
Mayor.
then, hold on a second, Tom, I think Dan Stevens wants. to
Oh, I'm
speak.
sorry.
Oh,
Come
no,
back.
it was just procedural. So,
Okay.
would we have a motion on the floor. If we want to refer this, do we execute the motion that we have and then do a referral, or can we just say, let's punt this to plan?
I think we're discussing it right now. So.
Right. So, but I asked that in the form of a question. Should we approve, if we want to turn down the, okay, I'll retract my statement so I can organize my thoughts here.
And to make it easier for everybody, I'll make a motion that we do end up referring this to plan.
We have a motion on the floor.
We do?
Motion on the floor made by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Stevens, was to deny, which was in support of the action taken at the Finance Committee. Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. So Amanda, did I hear you correctly? We could refer this to Plan Commission, correct?
But they
would you
won't, they're not meeting till May. They're not meeting in April.
Right. So Amanda, from a legal point of view, would you prefer, and or Eric, would you prefer that we deny this or just Alder Stevens and I can remove our motion and our second, and then we can make a new motion to refer to plan and then just carry it from there? What would the two of you prefer how we proceed with this?
I think it might be easier to remove your second motion and honestly refer it back to staff to determine the appropriate meeting course, because I think, Katie and I and Eric will have to sit down and determine, does it make sense to go to BOZA first or plan first? Or, I think we will have to evaluate Ms. Warner's suggestions and then determine the appropriate meeting response based on that.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right,
So
I'll remove my second.
I will remove my motion and I will make a new motion to refer this item to staff to better determine the appropriate course to follow. That's my
And
motion.
I will second that. Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion by Alder Wolf. I'm gonna go with Alder Smith for the second, to refer this item to staff. I was having a question. The question was, is there any timeliness? So I guess I would ask Amy Warner if delaying this affects what you're trying to do. I mean, the alternative is a denial. So does it help you out, Amy?
To be honest, we do have a contract signed. They would like to get moving on that other sign if possible, as well as the landscaping, which, as you guys know, in the season that we're in, this is kind of the time to get that stuff done. So, I don't like the idea of pushing it to May, but I would like to come to an agreement with the city. We would like to keep the two signs. We'll obviously tidy up if the signs get removed and make it look presentable, but we would ideally like to keep the monument sign as well as the Omni Center sign. We're just asking to have a 30-foot sign, like I said, 187 feet away on the south end of the property. So if we can, whatever route will get us to an agreement with that. And then also, if we do keep the Omni Center sign, we would just like to have an updated letter of understanding, with the current owner, if it does stay. So if that's something that I don't know where that falls into the mix of everything, but that is something I would like to have resolved as well.
Okay, I think that can be under this current motion, referring to staff can work out all of these details and then bring it back. Is there any other discussion?
Your Honor, I do.
Yes, go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. I think I'll just need some clarification and perhaps this answers the question in terms of the denial, but the motion from Finance Committee should have been to deny paying for the removal of the sign. If that were to be confirmed this evening, they would still be able to go with their current plan as per Plan Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. That's my understanding. Does anyone disagree with that?
So not to muddy the waters, but if the issue is the timeliness, then allowing the vote to deny paying the $675 for the sign still allows them to move forward.
But the thing is, they can't move forward until we give them permission. I mean, they can't put up another sign. They can't really do anything.
Correct. And my conflict that we were running into is that the city said that they wanted the sign back in their possession, but they didn't want to pay for the removal. So if the city doesn't want the sign back in their possession, then we would pay for the removal, and it would be tough to remove that sign without damaging it, given how it's attached to that monument sign underneath it. So that was my concern, that was on us to pay for the removal and deliver it to the city. And that was what we were told by Katie when we approached her originally. So like I said, I'm just looking for some clarification on what the city really wants, what the common council wants with that sign, and make sure that's a reasonable solution.
Thank you for that clarification, Amy. Okay, Amanda Jackson has a question.
I guess I was just going to clarify, to follow up what Eric said. If First American Roofing wants to remove the sign, they can do so. They don't need the Common Council's approval. The city has already said that they could remove the sign. We are okay with that. We don't want the sign. And so if they, for whatever timeliness reasons would need to move forward, they do have that as their option. This is before you because they were specifically asking for payment of the sign, not to remove the sign. If we're talking about keeping the sign, that's the discussion, that will involve multiple meetings likely to explore that option.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we really have two separate issues. One is, will we pay for the removal of the sign? And then the second is what we're going to refer to plan for next month. I mean, one really doesn't have anything to do, they're related, but they're not contingent upon each other. Would that be a good assessment?
Yes.
But I think under the current motion, I think what Amy needs to know is if under the current motion, they could just say, okay, we'll pay to have the sign taken out. We'll recycle it. They could really do that with the motion that we have right now. That would just be fine. Or if she wants to go back to her people and think about it, and they're like, well, maybe we will try to do the two signs, then they could work with staff to figure out what was going to have to get done to allow that non-conformance. Is that right, Amanda?
Correct.
Hey, Mayor, can I just want a clarification, because this is why it's so confusing. I've heard a couple of things.
Yeah.
But we don't want the sign, period, right? We don't want it. Because I heard different last week.
Correct. I talked to the Omni Center. I talked to Dan Wick, and so admittedly, this discussion did not include the possibility of the sign staying. And so if Dan's on here and he'd like to weigh in on that, he's welcome to. But our discussion as far as if the sign is removed, the city has no use for the sign.
Okay, that's why I was confused, because I was told last week that we wanted it, so that makes a big difference. Thank you.
And Your Honor,
Eric, go ahead.
One other point. I think the current motion now is to refer to staff. The denial took place in finance to pay for it. I believe we need to take action on that one way or the other, though, because the council has not approved denial of request to pay for the sign.
But they would be withdrawing their request to have us pay for it. So there wouldn't need to be
If the city doesn't want the sign, I would withdraw my request to have the city pay for it. It
There
was
we go.
based on the comment that the city had wanted the sign back, that I had asked them to pay for the removal of it.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
you.
so I feel like with this current motion, it gives the roofing company the option to just go ahead and remove the sign and be done with it, and the city doesn't have to do anything. Does everyone agree with that, or do we need to have more discussion? Okay, so are we ready to vote then? Did my screen freeze?
Everybody's nodding
Anybody
their head yes.
responding? Okay, we're gonna have a vote. All those in favor of referring this item to staff to determine if any additional action is needed, please say aye.
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 Those that are opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Amy, and thank you, Tom, for sticking with it so that we could get this resolved. Hopefully.
You're welcome. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was item 6E. Now we are going to go to Plan Commission, item V.
Mayor, we have to do vouchers.
I'm
We're
still
good.
on I'm on the items pulled from the consent agenda.
Okay, you want to do them in the order of the category, okay?
I just did 6E, and now I'm going to plan item V, which was a denial of the amendment to the Marketplace Development Plan Commercial Industrial District for the Walmart Supercenter to allow the building facade color to change, located at 3107 Marketplace on Alaska. This is tax ID parcel, tax parcel ID number 18-3635-8. The applicant is LK Architecture and Walmart Real Estate Business Trust. It was the recommendation of the Plan Commission to deny this amendment. I'll entertain that motion at this time. Someone could make a motion. We could get it on the floor for discussion.
I'll move to deny, just for get us to discussion here.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Wolf, to deny the amendment to the color scheme. Discussion. Maybe Eric, do you want to weigh in on this first?
Likewise, I think Amanda and Jared probably have some greater input as to the history, because I know that came up in the public conversation as to how we got here and what the restrictions are. So hopefully, Jared, you're available to speak on that.
The history, this actually was brought forward to the council about 5 years ago and was denied at that time. This is the one area of the city in this marketplace development that does have specific color patterns. I know Katie can describe it better on how this all fits into that development, but I know it was the will of the Plan Commission to have this scheme during this development. Amanda, can you chime in a little bit more from what Katie had said?
Yeah, just looking at the Plan Commission staff report, that it does require the use of organic colors and architectural details to blend in with the Home Depot and Aldi site, and provide a consistent pattern terms as far as the color palette in that marketplace development. And so it is not, the city staff does not recommend that this change be approved. It's my understanding also that the applicant has actually already submitted a second application that will be moving forward in May with a slightly different pattern.
Okay, thank you. Do the counselors have any other questions or comments?
So, question I have is, I understand that we want all the commercial buildings in that area to be similar in design. That's what I'm understanding. Not in design, similar in color scheme. Is going to a gray blue? I mean, this is really a question of style. When you take a look at what's around there, how is going to a gray blue going to somehow, be an eyesore or ruin the, the color schemes in that area? It is a separate building. It's still a neutral color, just like the ones around them are a neutral color. So I'm just I've been going through the notes here and I'm just trying to find out exactly what in style on this is so concerning.
Okay, so Jared or Amanda, do you want to answer that?
I mean, I think that some of the concerns were the level of the brighter shade of blue, the accent blue, and the size of those accent color pieces. Generally, you know, the organic color scheme is more of a brown tone as opposed to a gray tone. And while I get your point, you know, when Walmart chose to develop in this site, they essentially assigned on to this color scheme. And so we're really enforcing the decision of those individuals that developed there.
All right, that was very helpful. Thank you.
I thought that part of the reason though was because with this, if we start to change this agreement that we have with this group of retailers, that once we change one thing, then, you know, it leaves a lot more things open to be potentially changed, which could be good or bad. Do you think that's true, Amanda?
Yes.
So even though this color scheme isn't maybe that big of a deal, if it's blue or gray or brown, you know, there's a lot of other things in there that if we do really want to keep the area with the same connectedness appearance, and we start making changes that could lessen the impact.
That's a concern. I guess the big piece that Amanda mentioned to me is that the developers agreed upon this when they built there. So that's good enough for me.
And Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
We find ourselves in a position of sort of enforcing, as we just said, the agreements that other developers make amongst themselves. This is agreed upon so that the development occurred in a fashion that they all agreed to themselves, not that the cities necessarily forced this agreement upon them at the time.
And thank you for that, Eric. Any other discussion?
I guess I have just kind of competing thoughts here. I mean, generally speaking, I think people or businesses should be able to do whatever they want with their own building. And this does not affect like residential areas. You can see Walmart from the interstate, but it's not like, you know, this is an eyesore that people are living across would have to look at every day. On the other hand, your point about kind of you know, opening the door and not providing disparate treatment to other areas where that could be a factor is well taken. And then also, you know, if this was discussed and considered in detail through the plan commission, I guess at this point I sympathize with the request, but I don't know that I've seen anything compelling to overturn the work that was done at the committee level.
Thank you, Dan. Is there any other comments or questions from the alders or staff? Okay, the motion on the floor then is to deny the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, the amendment has been denied. Okay, now we are on item 8, finance. Diane.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 8A, vouchers. Since the last council meeting dated March 8th, 2022, monies have been expended. I move that we approve $1,993,851.57 that have been expended since the last council meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Diane Wolf, seconded by Alder Tom Smith to approve the vouchers. Is there discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Diane, go ahead.
Thank you again. Under number 9, Personnel Committee, item A, discussion and approval of the annual review process for the city administrator, ordinance 2.03.26.g. It was approved unanimously at F&P last week, so I will make a motion to approve the annual review process for the city administrator as per our packet this evening.
Second.
Who seconded that?
Jim Olson.
Jim, okay, good to hear from you, Jim. Okay, motion, and when people don't have their photo up, I always forget that they're there, so I'll try to remember. Okay, motion on the floor by Alder Wolf, seconded by Jim Olson to approve the annual review process for the city administrator. Is there discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Item 9B, approval of the request for non-FMLA leave of absence for Financial Services Director / Treasurer Sabrina Steger. This is a new item that did not hit F&P last week. So I will turn this over to Amy and or Sabrina and or Eric or whoever would like to talk. Pick.
Good evening. This is Amy Franzen. Yes, this was a request that was brought forward per policy. Anything beyond 80 hours of leave of absence would go through the Common Council. So again, in accordance to the policy, requesting that this be approved, and also to note that right now the request is for 10 additional hours, but also note that there may be some flexibility. This could be more hours, about a week and a half difference per se. But just looking for some flexibility or some guidance from council if they would like each and every request to come forward, or if this can be arranged as per this qualifying event for this individual.
Thank you for that, Amy.
Your Honor.
Yes.
If I may ask of Amy, what would you suggest, considering the topic and the reasoning for this, because this is something that we certainly cannot plan, would you maybe suggest a given range of up to so many hours before it comes back to council, or what would you suggest possibly?
Sure, thank you. I would suggest, if there was latitude to go up to 40 hours per se, I think that would be adequate amount of leave. But again, it's subject to obviously events that are unknown at this time, but it certainly could be onward, upward to, I would say, around 40 hours at most.
And I guess my follow-up question would be either to Amanda or Eric, would either or both of you be okay with up for council to meet? Because I would be prepared to make that motion up to 40 hours if either of you do not have a problem with that.
I have no problem. If I could have granted more, I would have done so, just considering the circumstances. But again, it's unknown amount. I'd be comfortable with that.
I think we would prefer.
Go ahead, Amanda.
I mean, it gets, tricky when you're planning something like this. As Amy stated, we did this based off a plan date. However, one cannot necessarily plan these things, and it is quite likely that it will be more than 10 hours. And so I think that having that flexibility makes it easier for all parties involved, and probably gives Sabrina a bit of a sense of comfort.
Well, and that's why I was asking, because I think it's not a bad thing to keep us informed, but I think to possibly meet out 10 hours at a time might be just a little bit silly, and considering the circumstances and situation. I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the request for up to 40 additional hours for non-FMLA leave of absence for Financial Services Director Treasurer Sabrina Steger.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Diane Wolf, seconded by Alder Carrie Burmaster. And maybe I'm having trouble tracking this. So right now, the city administrator can grant this up to 80 hours. So you're saying that the 40 hours is in addition to the 80 hours?
Correct. And if possible, if you would be willing to be so generous as to go up to 60 hours, Sabrina thinks that that is the most that she could potentially need.
So really then this would be changing it from allowing the city administrator to grant leave of absence requests without pay. The current rule is up to 80 hours, but this would be saying the council would have permission for the administrator to approve it up to like 140 hours. Am I understanding this correctly? Eric
So
says no and
he-
Amanda says yes.
No.
We're asking for, in this particular case, an understanding that there's not enough time. 40 hours doesn't cover the absence.
Yeah.
But 80 hours that I can approve does not likely cover the absence. Based on plan, it looks like only 10 would be necessary, but as you're saying, these things on this particular case are unknown. So in this particular case, we're asking council approval to approve additional hours, in this case only.
Okay, so in this case only, staff is suggesting that it goes up to 140 without having to come back to council. But for future cases, anytime it would be over 80 hours, it would still have to come back to council.
Absolutely.
Okay, but the motion on the floor would be for 80 plus, Diane said
40.
40. So that would equal 120.
And if I may follow up, I guess, I mean, I'm certainly willing to entertain 60, but I think I'm comfortable with 40. And then if more time is needed, I think that'd be a good time for council. Maybe I'm just thinking as I'm going here, so just bear with me. But I'm thinking that if additional 40 are exhausted, I think it would be really good for council then to be made aware of that, and for that, the additional time to be requested, because I would certainly be, I can't imagine that I wouldn't be in support of that, but I think at some time we need to know. So I don't know.
But needing to know is one thing, and then turning around and having them have to bring it back and then denying it is kind of another. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in a position to have to deny it.
Sure. Well, that's why I said I'm just thinking out loud here. I will amend my motion to approve an additional 60 hours. With,
And I'll, oops, go ahead.
With some type of updates to council.
And I'll second that.
Reasonable updates to council. I'm not looking at every 10 hours, but just reasonable updates,
Okay, so the motion on the floor as amended then is to approve the request of the non-FMLA leave for an additional 60 hours. And so that would be the 80 hours plus 60 equals 120. Max, not to exceed that number. With the request for updates at council if necessary.
Equals 140 hours.
Oops.
Yes.
No, it should equal 140. If I said it wrong. 80
Yeah, I think
plus
it said
60.
120. Right.
I got
Yeah.
too much stuff going on. in my
I know there's a lot of and under discussion, what I see some type of follow-up. Maybe it'd be nice to know that if maybe she is halfway through the additional 60 hours, maybe kind of know at that halfway point kind of where we're at or something, just to kind of know, just to have some type of a where we at. Is that all?
I was going to suggest that at the 40-hour mark, so approve it for 60, but send notice out just by email to council when you hit the 40 mark, and that way we can maybe gauge better going forward. But
and I'm not set on any certain number, but just somewhere partway through, just to kind of, so we just kind of have an idea is all. So.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a reminder, this is also unpaid time. The employee is requesting. This is not paid time additional. So for those unfamiliar with what the request is, it's not extending additional vacation or sick time. It is unpaid leave.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we have the motion on the floor for the 80 plus 60. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Item C is approval of the memo appointing, oh, sorry, Diane.
So
Back to you.
My last time to do this, Your Honor. Item 9C under Personnel, 9C approval of memo appointing Karen Marquardt as interim financial services director / treasurer. This also was not in our at F&P last week, but Amy has put a memo in her packet. And to get it started, just so we can have discussion, I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
The motion was by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Smith. Is there discussion?
If Eric could go first. I may not have any questions after he's done.
Thank you. The memo does list some dates, as we kind of indicated in the previous agenda item. Those dates may not be specific for that vacancy, so be aware that those dates may need to just be more open-ended than what the memo suggests. Covering that 3-month leave. So perhaps just leave it on appointing that position for the in that first sentence in 2022 while she's on a 3-month leave period, and just leave it at that. Although it does indicate it's subject to change slightly, we don't know how much that could change. This is also for Common Council's purposes something you have not seen in the past before, for a position that has a natural employee position that will assume most of the duties during an absence. I believe this makes the most sense to do so. I think it's fair compensation for the work that will be done. There will be tasks spread out through other employees, but the vast majority of the burden will fall on Karen, who I know will do a remarkable job doing it for that time period, and I feel should be recognized as such. The other thing that makes us different is we do have the treasurer and finance director is an appointed position, and I think we're in better hands to actually appoint somebody fully in that position than leave it vacant in the past. There are other positions that probably have natural deputies or assistants that could do the similar nature, probably existed in the past, but I firmly believe this is a best practice to do for these shorter or mid-length durations for absences of employees. Excuse me.
Thank you for that, Eric. Did the counselors have any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to second Eric's comments. That's very well thought of. Thanks, Eric.
Anyone else?
Your Honor.
Yes, Alder Wolf.
Thank you again. So just a couple of questions. I've since spoken with Amy, and I understand that this was the plan that Sabrina brought forth. So I have a lot of respect and that she has faith and confidence in Karen as I do. I understand that this is non-budgeted item, but I also understand, I just want to get in the record that we had a finance specialist position opening, so the cost savings from that will be able to cover this. And either Sabrina or Amy or someone can just confirm that, or Eric. Just want to get that in the record so we're all aware of that.
I can confirm that. Beyond the specialist position, as we just discussed, there will be some unpaid time for that position as well, which will adequately cover.
Right. Okay, great.
It seems like we have, like, there's an awful lot falling on Karen's shoulders in a short period of time. Is that, are we going to be able to manage? I mean, I'm not saying she's not up for the job, but it just seems like it's an awful lot we're putting on her shoulders. And are you confident that everything will get done?
Yes, I'm confident everything will get done. One of the things we've done in the past is try to dole out into multiple directions tasks that especially department head would have done. We find, though, that often the person that would most likely be a natural replacement ends up getting more work anyway, because there's people that are learning or are new or as inefficient in that task. We will do what we can to support Karen through this process, but I have every confidence in her ability to do so. But that ability to do so should come with that recognition and that appointment.
Agreed.
So, Eric, are there additional responsibilities that you'll be taking on during this time?
Yep, there'll be some responsibilities. So reviewing the purchases and the POs, which Amanda will also was trained on. She'll also assist me with that as well. Unfortunately, I was not able to hit the training as today as expected.
Your Honor, if I could add something.
Sure,
Sorry, I was
Sabrina.
I was trying
Yes.
to raise my hand.
Sorry, I didn't see that. I've
No,
got,
you're good. I have been working with Karen for the last couple of months, and I do feel confident that she will be able to fill in for me in my absence. I'll also be available, like I will be off, but I will be available for questions and things of that nature. I did speak to prior financial services director, Fred Bueller, shortly after finding out that I was going to have an absence. And thankfully he did say that, you know, the months of April, May, and June usually are a little bit slower, hopefully. So I'm hoping that is the case. I'll be back before budget gets ramped up. So I do feel confident in Karen's ability to fill in for me in my absence. And like I said, I will be available through phone and email and whatnot. So feel very confident in her abilities to do that.
well, thank you, Sabrina. And I know we all have a lot of confidence in her as well. But I mean, I think from my perspective, at least, like, I just really want to make sure that, you know, obviously the city is in good shape, but also that you can have time off to do what you need to do to take care of yourself and your family. So that's what we're just trying to make sure that we're going into this with a decent plan so that you can have that time, not be worrying about the city so much.
Thank you.
Okay, counselors, anything else?
Mayor,
Yes, Joanne.
appointments need to be done by roll call.
Okay, so if we're ready to vote, Joanne will do the roll.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Jim Olson,
Aye.
Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Tom Smith.
Aye.
Okay, the motion was unanimous. Passes. Okay, I'm just kind of looking at the time and I'm looking at the agenda. I'm wondering if we'll just if we want to pull anything ahead or if we want to just keep going.
I know we have people from Centering on Alaska that were here.
Yeah.
It might be nice to move that one up.
Yes, okay, so let's go. We would have normally went to Plan Commission, but let's skip ahead to item 11, Park and Recreation Director, regarding the City of Onalaska support for Centering Onalaska hanging baskets. So if Dan Wick, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You want to take, oh, wait, Stephen Knott?
Just a reminder, I have no problem moving this forward right now, but we still have a 9E as well based on a prior decision.
And also D.
And D.
Yeah. So we have D and E.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. Well, let's just go ahead here to item 11 and then we'll come back to that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You heard a few different comments under the public comment regarding the hanging basket program. This item has been before us a few times. I think staff and members of Centering Onalaska have tried to do our due diligence to find the best way to move forward with the hanging basket program. So as the council members did receive an email from me, I did put together a tentative schedule of our staff doing the watering with a reimbursement coming back from Centering Onalaska. As you heard in public comment, Centering Onalaska is willing to make a contribution based on the cost the city does incur with our work with the hanging baskets. And at this time, I would make the recommendation that we do move forward to do that and try to make this program continue.
Okay, thank you for that, Dan. So do you need to make a motion then? So I'm not really trying. I feel like we already approved it, but maybe I'm on the wrong page.
I thought we had approved it as well.
Yeah. What action is needed?
We approved 8 hours last month, if I remember correctly, to hang, didn't we?
That is correct. What has happened in the past was just that our city staff would assist with hanging the baskets and taking the basket down at the end of the season. What this is coming forward is to get the support as through the budget process, the council voted to that the city would not participate in the watering program. So this is a change from what was discussed and approved through the budget process. So we would need a motion that the city would continue the watering during the week, and Centering Onalaska would pick up the watering on holidays and weekends. And then at the end of the season, Centering Onalaska would make a payment or a donation to the Park and Rec Department for the man hours that were done watering the flowers for the season.
All right, I will make a motion that the city of Onalaska will proceed with the weekday watering of the hanging basket program for Onalaska, with the understanding that the estimated cost of $4,825 would be reimbursed from the local organization Centering Onalaska.
I will second that.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Stevens. It's been seconded by Alder Wolf. Is there further discussion?
Your Honor, I'd like to continue.
Okay.
I've worked with Centering Onalaska on this process, and I would like to say that their organization has made an exhaustive effort to do what they need to do to continue the flower basket program. And I can't emphasize enough that the benefit to the city is profound. I mean, I believe that there's a tourism benefit. I believe that it engenders community pride. I believe that it aesthetically raises the community standard of living that our citizens enjoy. The fact that we have a community organization that is selflessly donating their time and raising the money and using the money that they have to continue this for the city of Onalaska and its residents, I think it would send a very poor message to any future group that would want to collaborate with the city if we were to turn this down. And they understand some of the issues that the city has faced, and I think that they've really stepped up. I think it's very important that we support them in this endeavor.
Thank you for your comments. Amanda had something.
I just have a point of clarification with the motion. Is the intent that Centering Onalaska will reimburse that exact estimated amount, or is the intent with the motion that they will reimburse the actual cost?
Well, that's kind of open-ended. I guess I would, the intent would be the actual cost. However, we need to be careful that, I mean, if the cost came in at 15,000 or something like that, it would maybe put the organization in a bad way.
My second was for actual.
I would look for guidance on what council thinks here. I could amend it either way.
Diane, what were you saying?
My second was for actual costs. At least that was my intention.
Okay, let's ask Dan Wick, what do you feel about that amount? Is it reasonable?
The amount was put together as a plan. It is a fluid document. If we don't have staff available, we have to use full-time staff. But in conversations with Centering Onalaska, they want to be an active partner in it. And if we do find times that we are struggling to find people to do it, that they would pick up some of the time during the week. So I feel that number is a pretty solid number, but I think it should be the actual cost that we do incur throughout the course of the summer.
Which may be more or less than 4,825.
It could be, I'll be honest, but in talking with Senator on Alaska, they've already looked at possibly doing some things different in September with the group picking up some of the weekday water to keep the cost as affordable as they can.
Okay, so I'll state my motion for actual costs. I'd like to follow it up with a question: what happens if it goes over? I mean, and perhaps some if there's people from Centering on Alaska, I mean, if it's a couple $100, I get a feeling we could find a way to take between the group, we could find a way to take care of that. But should we make it more flexible and just keep it actual cost or under $5,000, or just stick with actual cost?
Okay, can we get a comment from, or Diane? Diane can go first, and then between Centering on Alaska folks, maybe Jan could be the spokesperson. But Diane, you go first, and then we'll hear from Jan.
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. My thinking is that I would like to think that, and I can't imagine this won't occur, is that, as Dan Wick just stated, that this is going to be a very fluid situation. And I firmly believe that Dan Wick and Centering on Alaska spokesperson will be in contact as things continue. And I can't imagine that, City of Alaska, we won't have part-time staff, and then Dan just throws his full-time staff at it, and then at the end we present a bill for $20,000. So I feel very confident that Dan and Centering on Alaska will be in consultation with each other as time goes on, so Centering on Alaska is alerted to any situations that may be arising. So I still think that, and I know that Centering on Alaska, they're also on OAF agenda tomorrow night, and I realize that's their agenda, not ours. So I'm not really sure exactly what we're going to be talking about tomorrow night, whether it's fundraising or what. But I feel confident that there will be communication to take away any surprises. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Jan, go ahead. Let us know what you think of that.
Sorry, had to unmute. No, Diane said it very well. Dan's estimate, I think, is probably a very good one, and we feel comfortable with that. We've looked at ways of reducing that as the weather cools in September, and I think we'll simply be in contact, and we can work with city staff on that.
Okay, thank you. And Dan is very good at planning work.
Thank you.
He gets a lot of experience. Okay, anything else on this topic? Stephen Knott.
So just a quick comment that even if it's a few $100s, that may actually be problematic with that comment. Remember that during the budget process, this is something that we discussed that was unfortunate that we had to do as a cost savings. So I don't want to undo our budget decisions by opening the door that we can go over and the city will pay for it.
To clarify that comment, the couple $100 I was assuming would be picked up from Centering on Alaska, not from the city of from Centering on Alaska, not from the city of
Okay, thanks.
Not speaking well. From Centering on Alaska, not the city of Onalaska. Too many Onalaskas. Okay. Centering on Alaska, city of Onalaska.
Okay, so yes, I think that we all agree that baskets are an asset to our community. Is there any other discussion? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve the plan that has been presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, that is passed. Okay, now I'm going to ask that we just take a short break. I'm sorry, but I got to do a couple things.
We hear.
Including letting my dog out before they have a fit. So can we just pause for 2 or 3 minutes and I'll be right back. I see all the alders.
Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Everyone has returned. So we are now on item 9D. Diane.
Thank you so much. So under Personnel 9D, discussion and approval of the description for the city administrator. I'm trying to remember, was this in our packet last week? Amy, help me, I don't remember.
No, we decided to bring it just to council.
Oh, thank you. That's why I didn't remember it. So yeah, so there is a job description for the city administrator in our packet. And just to get it on the floor for discussion, I will make a motion to approve item 9D as submitted this evening.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Knott. Is there discussion?
One thing I would like to add, does Amanda and or Amy want to add anything? Any background or anything on this or not?
And
Just
I'd
throwing it
also
out
like to get input from Eric as well. Let's start with Eric. Do you have any input?
When the item came up, I did review draft change, but I want to make clear that this is definitely staff driven, and I don't want anyone to think that this is my work or my creation. Amy and Amanda did a great job on this. It does follow the format we're currently using. It is a shorter descriptor, allows for more, as other duties as required. But I'm definitely supportive of the change and thank those involved with putting it together.
Okay, any other staff have any comments on this? Any alders? Okay, I just want to highlight for clarity, like probably two of the a lot of it was just forming and words, but two of the main changes to this job description is moving the responsibility of CDA from the planning director,
Manager.
to, or planning, I knew I was wrong. I couldn't think what it was. From the planning manager to the administrator. And the other one was the transit piece. Just want to make sure the alders notice that, and Eric as well. Is there any questions on that or comments? Okay, well then the motion on the floor is to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Diane?
Thank you. And so 9E will be, which was 12A, correct?
Correct.
Was discussion and possible action regarding remote work application for city administrator. This is also in your packet. I believe it's the last 2 pages. So I will turn this over to our council president.
Thank you, Diane. This application was presented to me by the city administrator. This is just for an informal request, which means this is not on any scheduled basis. It's just for when emergencies would come up where there would be a need for working as an on-call basis from home instead of from City Hall. There also is, at the end of that, there also is an equipment listing of what would be needed to do this, which I'd like to have discussion on later, but to get this on the floor, I'll make a motion to approve the remote work informal request.
I will second that.
Would an emergency be constituted by
Hold on
shut?
a second. We have a motion on the floor by Carrie Burmaster, seconded by Diane Wolf to approve. And then now I'll open it up for discussion and we can go to Dan Stevens.
Oh, no, I was just being glib. Like, would an emergency that would necessitate this be something like a complete loss of power at City Hall?
Possibly.
Okay, Alder Burmaster.
I would just like to speak about the equipment listing at the end. And the concern that I have about this is I think we should have some kind of a standard listing of equipment that somebody would need at home for, let's say, an informal basis, because we have formal requests, we have informal requests. I would consider that if someone made a formal request, they would be working at home for like an entire day, you know, things like that, where it's on a regular basis. They would have a need for more equipment. On an informal request, I would suspect that there would be a need for less equipment. And I guess my concern is just that we are responsible with the taxpayers' dollars, and spending, you know, just the money that we need to, and not being excessive with what we have there. So I would like to see some kind of a standardized equipment listing for these informal requests, so we make sure that everybody does have what they need, but not that we need everything. And I guess maybe even Eric can maybe speak to that as to what other people have and what the needs would be, and if this is reasonable or what.
Okay,
Sure.
so let's hear from City Administrator Eric Reinflush.
Sure. The standard package for anybody working at home worked out with IT, and it's something that's then I've requested and approved for any other staff that has the occasional need or ability on an informal basis or formal basis, but in particular informal basis, to set up for work from home. One of the attachments to the requests that we give to every employee, and we've been signing lots of these requests for those that have the ability, have a laptop that can be taken home, is standard guidelines for what makes a working condition, a workplace, a good working condition, ergonomically and otherwise. So my request is what I've approved and requested for other people for ergonomics, for efficiency, for any workplace. Because again, when someone is working from home, they are working, and that's considered to be their workplace at that moment in time. So we have to make sure that we're following all the proper office setups for anybody working at home.
So Eric, you're saying that you are requesting, or you have received the same equipment as anybody else working remotely?
This is the same request that I approved for new employees, HR, for example, and other employees. This is the setup that if we're going to allow and require people to work from home, that in my opinion they should have. So there's other employees with the same setup, yes.
Well, I asked staff to prepare a report of what other people had, and it doesn't match what you're saying. So maybe we'll have to investigate that more.
Mayor, this is Jared, if I could speak.
Yes, please.
I know in working with Nils, we have had many of the same requests for various people, depending on their level of work from home. And we've been able to make those into the budget that we have for those requests up to this point adequately.
Okay. Alder Knott?
Yeah, so I have some concerns on this. In this case, maybe
Can't hear you, Steve.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Every time I turn away from
when
this
you're
thing-
facing, we can hear you, and when you turn, we can't.
yeah, it's a constraint on this computer. Let me get this right in front of me, man. All right, so I have some concerns, especially on the equipment side. I'm afraid we might be opening a Pandora's box here. So this isn't a work from home agreement. This is a infrequent informal work as needed, emergency or on call. So I would argue that all of us have that already. I've got a personal computer and a cell phone that on an emergency or on call, I can do what I need to do. I don't need to have the city pay for an entire setup for me. And if we go down this path, we're opening up the Pandora's box that all of us here, the entire staff, could start making an argument that the city needs to pay for an on-call and emergency basis information technology station for them at their home. And that's my concern on this. On-call is cell phone, all right, or your own personal computer. An emergency is pretty much the same, or it's emergency operations center, in which case we have our computers already set up there anyway, as well as the telephones. So, yeah, I don't actually support this. I just think that we're going to be creating a lot of problems down the road.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there any other comments or discussion? Okay, so we're ready to vote. The motion on the floor is to approve the, let's see, remote work application for the city administrator. The motion on the floor is to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Your Honor,
Those
I'll ask for a roll call. It might be cleaner.
Yeah, I had a delay too on my computer. So Joanne, can you do a roll call vote for us?
Absolutely. Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Nay.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Jim Olson,
Nay.
Tom Smith,
Oh, Tom, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
So it passes 4-2.
Motion passes 4-2. Thank you very much. Okay, Diane, are you done?
Am I?
You're
I
done.
think so.
Did I miss
Yes.
anything?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay,
For now,
moving on.
for now.
Moving on then to Plan Commission. Item A, approval of the Grandview Estates final plot application, Phase 1, containing 35 parcels and 7 outlots, a total of 31.98 acres to allow for a mixed use development for the properties located along State Highway 16. These are tax parcel ID numbers 18-4483-501, 18-4485-4, and a portion of 18-4485-3. The applicant is Grandview Estates. It was a recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve this item. If someone wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. This is Tom. I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item 10A as stated.
I'll second.
Okay, motion on the floor by Tom Smith, seconded by Alder Carrie Burmaster. Is there discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Your Honor, I
Oh, sorry.
apologize. Could we talk about, okay, so the email that Jared had sent out, which item is that in reference to? Is that A or B?
Your Honor,
Jared?
that would be in relation to both A and B.
Okay, so Jared, would you like to say a few words first?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we got that on the floor and we talked about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Staff is recommending the approval of the plat as stated at Plan Commission with the conditions attached at the Plan Commission meeting. I did forward a email on to the elected officials on behalf of Chris Meyer representing Grandview Estates. I think staff has worked out some of the concerns that Grandview Estates has brought forward. I think there was just the one concern on the final email regarding the payment of fees. I would guess Mr. Meyer would still be on the line if you'd like to hear from him in relation to that request.
Thank you. Chris, are you still on the line? He was earlier.
Yes.
I don't see him.
His name was up.
He's at the bottom. I see him.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there he is. Okay, Chris, let's hear from you.
Okay. It's for time for everybody tonight. I guess what we're looking at is not to waive any of the fees in any means or any way for the city of Onalaska. We still support that the city of Onalaska receive these fees. We're just requesting that they come from the end user. Our request is probably the first time this has come to the floor. because most of the time the developer and the end user are the same entity. In this case, Grandview Estates has invested in the road infrastructure, sewer and water, and of the land to expand the city of Onalaska, but we will not be the end user for what the fees are for. We will be selling the land. We are not planning and have no plans to build out there for Grandview Estates LLC. So again, we will not be the end user. When the city of Onalaska originally constructed the pump station and such, you know, the city was in it for the long-term investment. There really was no timeline in front of them for the farm to be purchased and actually developed. This is supported by the fact that the farm was actually for sale for 12 consecutive weeks before we purchased it. And the timing of us purchasing it and the lift station and such being put in is more of a coincidence than a planned event. So the original city plan had to be for the long haul versus this property being developed literally a year after the lift station being put in. So I guess what I laid out in my email was a very simplistic plan that could be implemented by the city of Onalaska to collect the fees at the time when the building permits are pulled by the end users. And we were just hoping for support of that. Onalaska has been extremely important to us as a company, and they've been very supportive of us and our requests over the last year and a half of planning this project. And we hope for your continuing support on this request.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other questions or comments from the counselors or from staff? Stephen Knott.
Yeah, so I understand Chris's request and I understand why he's making that. If we were to grant any kind of a change to the billing on this, the city incurs all the risk, meaning that any currently unsold of those properties, or even the ones that are sold that for whatever reason are delayed or not developed, that we won't recoup those fees. We're putting in infrastructure right now across the city in order to encourage development, but we recoup some of those costs through our fees to provide those services to the customers. So we'll be accepting the risk if we make that change, and I'm opposed to that.
Okay.
Thank you, Alder Knott. Is there any other comments or questions? Okay. So the motion on the floor is for the approval coming forward out of Plan Commission with the conditions. Is there any last chance for discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. And then item B is approval of the Grandview Estates First Edition Final Plot Application Phase 2, containing 21 parcels and 2 outlots, a total of 12.61 acres, to allow for a single-family residential subdivision development for the properties located along State Highway 16 Onalaska. These are tax parcel ID numbers 18-4485-1, 18-4485-2, and a portion of 18-4485-3, and the applicant is Grandview Estates. Jared, did you want to add any comment in advance of council action?
No, Your Honor, just that the Plan Commission and the staff are recommending approval with the conditions as outlined at Plan Commission.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion on the floor by Diane Wolf, seconded by Tom Smith to approve this item coming forward from Plan Commission with the conditions.
Yes,
Any
with
other
all
discussion?
35. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item C is resolution 14-2022, a preliminary resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of an alley between 3rd Avenue North and 4th Avenue North, City of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin. It was a recommendation of Plan Commission to approve.
Your Honor, this request has been withdrawn.
Okay. Okay, we will have no action on that item. Getting down to number 11, we've dispensed with that. We are on item 12, Alderperson Burmaster, parting remarks.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the citizens of Onalaska for representing you. It was a great honor to do that. I know you will be in good hands, leaving you with the current council and the new council members that will be coming on board next week. And I also want to thank the mayor and the other council members and staff. It's been great working with all of you, and it's been a real experience being on the other side, being on the staff for so many years. I said it's been a good experience to see what goes on the other side also. So I said I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity. Thank you.
And thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Sorry that we couldn't be in person. For that. And item 13, Alderperson Wolf. Comments?
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Well, go. You just go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah. So I just wanted to just briefly talk a little bit about my experience while campaigning for re-election this last time. In contacting approximately 700 spring voters this past month for my re-election, I met a lot of familiar faces and met a lot of new ones, mainly due to redistricting. A lot of what I did this past election was, besides campaigning, was to inform and remind the voters of redistricting and the new polling locations. Last year, I had expressed concern about, as a candidate, about some of the responsibility as a candidate is to inform the voters of the new information this election cycle, but I felt strongly it was the city's responsibility to also do that. I've personally found overwhelmingly my response to doors was that message was received loud and clear. I thought it was perfect timing for the water bills to hit mailboxes the Saturday before the Tuesday election last week. So thank you so very much. That was perfect. There were also inserts in that mailing that showed the new city hall hours and then the important election changes, which I really appreciated, and the map. And so I had a number of discussions about that. So, and some people were wondering, they were curious about why the change in polling locations, and I was more than happy to extend the reasonings for that. And people were really happy to hear the reasonings why behind that. Almost every person I spoke with were aware of the changes. So I want to thank staff who made this happen, informing the public. I understand that another round of information will be coming out before the next election, as there are a lot of constituents that are not spring voters. So I appreciate the continued education and information from staff, because it's really, really important. Overall, I received a lot of positive comments, in particular comments that called out City Hall employees by name. I have since anonymously passed those comments on to those specific employees and also to their supervisor. I wasn't surprised to hear one suggestion in particular was that they felt that the MTU could use more routes and later routes in Onalaska. A gentleman also commented he thought that the city was being managed very well. I was fully prepared to respond to water and sewer rate questions. I was really surprised I did not have a single one. People did ask me about the sewer contract. Was more than happy to talk about the sewer contract, especially now that we can say we have a sewer contract. But I honestly believe that the reason why sewer and water rate questions did not come up is because staff has done a really good job fielding questions this past many months. So kudos to them. I share this information with all of you mainly because I have always been a proud Onalaskan the last 30 years. I've lived here, and being on council and serving as a representative of Alaska usually can be a pretty easy gig. And I say that because of the administration, department head, staff, and I've always said that you all make us electeds look pretty good on any given day. So thank you to all, and I look forward to the start of a new council year next year. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Item 14, Alderperson Olson, parting remarks.
Thank you, Mayor. It has been an absolute pleasure to put in place something my father taught me a long time ago, and that's serving other people, and the ability to do so is an honor. And I've learned an awful lot, and it reinforces some of the things that my father taught me. And serving others was an honor to all of us. So I wish to thank everybody for their past support, and continue to do so, because District 1 is being served by people who care. So give it your all, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. And again, I'm sorry that we couldn't be in person for that.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thanks for your service, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Okay. Item 15, closed session. To consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically the contract for the city administrator. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue on with the printed agenda. We have a motion.
Motion to go into closed.
Second.
Motion by Jim Olson, seconded by Carrie Burmaster to go into closed session. Voting will be by roll call. Joanne, are you ready to do that?
And Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Jim Olson,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Dan Stevens.
Hi.
Thank you. We are in closed session. The time is 9:02.